Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Bands You Should Know. This time, we are going to take a trip over to beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, or if you're from America, some part of Canada. And we are going to be talking about one of my favorite bands of this millennium. You can see it here already. This time we are going to be talking all about the band Bison. So, Bison. They formed around 2006, and in 2007 they released their first, mini album, which is called Earthbound. And Earthbound, amazing debut. It is 6 songs, 30 minutes, no bullshit metal, the kind of metal that makes your neck hurt just fucking listening to it. Now, in describing the sound of Bison, I hear a lot of words get thrown around, and one in particular that I think is completely inappropriate is the term stoner. And no, stoner metal to me is lazy, uninspired Sabbath worship, and that is not Bison at all. Bison to me kind of sounds like a culmination of everything heavy, but at the same time, nothing in particular that you can quite put your finger on. There's a lot of different elements going on. So why don't we just agree to call them metal, okay? Cool. And Earthbound is an amazing debut. It gives you everything you need to know about the sound of Bison right out of the gate. And it's such a strong debut that, of course, they were very quickly signed to Metal Blade Records. And this is where my relationship with this band begins. Quiet Earth, their debut album on Metal Blade Records. And if you look in the S for Bison, there's a little BC down there in the S. And that's because there was another band called Bison, and so in order to avoid any legal issues that might have come up, they altered their name to Bison BC, which is how a lot of you may have heard of this band. And Quiet Earth is a fucking killer album. It is riff central, folks. It takes pretty much what they were doing with Earthbound and refines it. It is balls out metal. It is heavy. It's See, it's like that. A whole bunch of that shit. And to me, Quiet Earth is the best representation of the early Bison BC sound. So there were a lot of other bands. Let's just take a look. Look. Remember what I always say about collages? You're not a good metal band if you've never had an album without a collage. So, but yes, around the time this came out, there were a lot of bands that you could say we're doing a similar kind of thing. Like you could throw your Red Fangs and your Torches and High on Fire and bands like that. There were a lot of these sort of heavy bands with kind of a classic quality, and then they were all sort of mingling with stoner or sludge or what have you. And to me, none of those bands quite had the weight that was shown on this particular album. And also, Bison as a live band always fucking deliver. That's a band that I highly recommend if you ever get a chance to see them. I first saw them on the tour for Quiet Earth when they toured with Kylesa and I think Tombs, if I remember right. I don't remember all of that, but Bison fucking blew me away as a live band. And so, to be honest, they had everything fucking going for them at this point. This was an album that I couldn't stop fucking playing. And so, of course, a couple years down the road, I was absolutely ready for their next offering. In 2010, the band released this album, Dark Ages, also on Metal Blade Records. And to me, overall, as a fan of this band, this is the least pleasing of their albums. It's still heavy as fuck. There's still riffs everywhere. It's still a very enjoyable listen, but to me, it feels a little bit transitional. Like they had other places they were going to go, which we'll get to. And it's almost like they had one foot kind of left in what they were doing and one foot stepping forward into what they would do. Let's take a look at this guy right here. There's a gatefold. I think all but one of their albums have gatefolds. So there you go. Some cool live photos. Speaking of that, I saw them again on this particular tour, opening for High on Fire. And once again, they fucking blew my mind. An amazing live band. So Dark Ages, sure, I feel like it's a little bit of a step down overall as an album, but it's still really fucking good. But it's where they go next, where the fucking magic happens. In 2012, Bison BC released Lovelessness. This is my favorite Bison album, and it was my favorite album of the year when it came out. This album takes what Bison were already doing and adds an emotional weight to the already heaviness that the riffs and songs already had. And this album is a motherfucker. It's so good. So at the time, I was writing album reviews for a small website that you've never heard of called Scene Point Blank. And if you will, let me read you a couple of little quotes from my review of Lovelessness. With each album, they have combined sludge with elements of thrash and classic metal with increasingly epic results. But with Lovelessness, it appears that they had simply been barreling up through a narrow passageway and have finally burst through the ceiling, revealing the boundless possibilities of their unique sound. It seems almost impossible to not feel the catharsis that drives every song on Lovelessness. Singling out any one track would do this album a great disservice, as each song fits like an important part of a collective celebration of life, death, and the unavoidable struggle that connects the two. this album came out, I literally could not stop listening to it. There is a beauty in it. It's still very heavy, but also, like I said, there's an emotion that comes through. Even in just the guitar riffs and melodies in the instrumental sections of some of the songs, they seem just as powerful in getting across a vibe or a story than any lyrics could do. And I am still baffled at how a band could put out something this amazing, and what actually went into doing it, because it is a fucking masterpiece in my opinion, and is the album that solidified them as one of my favorite modern bands. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend checking it out. If you listen to my very verbose words from my review, I really like this album. It fully connected with me. And to be completely honest, this is the kind of album that should have made Bison blow up fucking huge. But guess what? They didn't. The album didn't do very well, and they were soon after dropped by Metal Blade Records. The stupidest thing Metal Blade Records has ever done, in my opinion. But you know what? Those kind of things happen, I guess. But Bison did not give up. In 2014, the band independently released the 1000 Needles EP, which is also fucking great. And then in 2017, they released this, their most recent album, You Are Not the Ocean, You Are the Patient. Now, as a follow-up to Lovelessness, this album has similar qualities, but I almost feel like where Lovelessness had a melancholy throughout it, this is more of an anxious-sounding record. And there's a lot of groove on here. There's a lot of head-nodding moments on it. And it's fucking killer. And if you see there, they removed the BC from their name, and now they are once again just known as Bison, which is why I keep referring to them as Bison. And then they released this album on Pelagic Records, I think it's called. Anyway, it's upside down. It goes that way and then that way. So this album is really great, and it pretty much solidifies their full transition into this darker version of their sound. Like if you compare this album to Quiet Earth, this one has a lot more darker tones going on. This one is more, you drink a beer and your fist is in the air kind of metal. This one is, you may still have a beer in your hand, but you got some heavy thoughts going on in your brain as well. So You Are Not the Ocean, You Are the Patient is the last release from Bison at this point, but very recently they posted a video clip on their Facebook page that made it seem like they're working on new shit. I know I'm fucking ready for it, and after this video, I hope the rest of you out there will be ready as well. Go out and listen to any Bison album you can find. They're all fucking great. I highly recommend Lovelessness. I don't know what else to say about the album. It's fucking great. And Bison are a fucking great band. So hopefully they continue to put more albums out and keep their shit going, because at least this guy right here is really fucking into their shit, and probably will always be, because it just does something for me. What can I say? And I hope it does something for you. Bison, a band you should know, and now you do. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all again very soon.